Let's talk about VR business use cases. As you probably know, unlike the rest of the world, VR is so much more than just games, entertainment, and watching movies on a big screen. You know that VR has a lot of potential in so many industries. Actually, VR can be applied to pretty much any industry, which makes it so freaking powerful. And since most people are still unaware of this potential, there is a huge untapped opportunity in using VR for enterprise. So in this video, I want to give you a full overview of why and when to use VR, and even more important, when not to use it. All of the unique values that VR brings actually. 3 real-life examples, so we are not just doing some mental masturbation here. And then fourth, we also talk about some concrete action steps that you can take to actually build a VR business use case. So before we get started, very briefly, who am I to talk about VR and business use cases? My name is Dinesh. I have been in the AR and VR field since 2016 now and have been applying immersive technologies to a lot of different industries, from gaming, healthcare, manufacturing, interior design, education, all of these fields. I've seen how VR can have a massive improvement in the enterprise. On the business side, well, in 2016 I was part of a HoloLens startup, or like a mixed reality startup, which is pretty early for that time. That failed pretty hard, so lots of learnings on that side. And then on 2018 I founded my own company, I bootstrapped my own company, which is called Immersive Insiders, which is an education company teaching people all over the world XR design and development. Before we talk about value that VR brings, let's just go one step back and talk about value in general. I mean, it's a very broad term that could mean anything really. So let's kind of like try to define it in very, very simple terms. So what even is value? Basically any product or service that you are voluntarily paying money for. And at the end of that transaction, so you pay the money, the other person gives you the service or the product, both sides are happy. So you are happy with the deal and the other person is also happy. Very, very, very simplified, very broad of course, but just have a fundamental understanding of this kind of concept. Just a quick example, let's say I go to my barber here in Berlin and I pay him like 30 bucks for making my hair and my beard and everything, so I can look fresh for making YouTube videos. He's happy because he has more money to use for investing in the business, doing anything with it, whatever he wants to. And I'm happy because I look fresh and I can do it again and again. So that has been a relationship, transactional relationship, whatever you want to call it, for many, many years. And every couple of weeks I just go there, I pay him the money, he does the service, and super simple, right? So just to close this one up, how would you quantify that amount of value? Like, how do you calculate this value, especially for your VR use cases again? Well, let's check out this beautiful equation by Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers, which is probably one of the, if not the best business books of all time. Highly recommend reading this book. It's just amazing. So in the value equation we see 4 variables, and we have dream outcome. So what is the dream goal? Let's say you want to have a 6-pack, kind of like simple example. The dream outcome is going to be a 6-pack. Perceived likelihood of achievement, like how capable are you of achieving that, and especially like when you get a service, like how well is the service going to be able to give you that outcome, divided by, and so you want to have the upper ones like very high, very big numbers. Basically the dream outcome should be something very hard and very big and everything. Perceived likelihood should also be high, then divided by, and these numbers should be very low and very small. Time delay and effort and sacrifice. So for getting a 6-pack, let's take like 2 scenarios. The first one is gonna be doing the old school way, the way that everybody should do it, basically by hard work, eating less, and just train. So dream outcome, again, 6-pack is the same. If you are somebody with like low self-esteem and like very overweight and you don't have any self-control and no discipline and everything, you already think like, okay, I'm never gonna be able to do it. So that already makes a value and the number really small, right? Then divided by time delay. Getting a 6-pack takes a lot of time. I'm still trying to do it, not too bad, but it just takes a lot of time. And then the other thing that's also really high is the effort and the sacrifice, because you have to go do it on a very consistent basis. You have to skip ice cream and all of that stuff most of the time. Again, you have to be very disciplined with your food, versus compare this one to some like trend that is also coming and even rising, unfortunately, is like something like liposuction. You just like do like surgical thing to get the fat out, which again has the same outcome. Perceived likelihood is pretty high. Like if a professional doctor does it and not me, for example, then you probably believe that that person can do it if he has done it like 1,000 times already. Divided by time delay. I mean, this is the crazy part. You do it like for like 1 or 2 days and you're like done. You have a 6-pack almost immediately. And then the effort and sacrifice, it's also like very, very, very low. So you don't have to do anything. You just lie down, close your eyes, done. And that is why the perceived value of this is so much higher than just working and doing it, which is also why so many people start doing this. Also one of the reasons why the supplement industry is so high. Like,
just take a pill and then you get the six-pack.
I mean, again, dream outcome high. People with high IQ don't think that the perceived likelihood is high, so that is like the main part here where it struggles. But again, divided by time delay, you get it overnight. And then effort sacrifice, just swallow a pill. You see, that is kind of like the thinking that you can take into any offer you do. Any offer we do at Immersive Insiders, when I present something to big companies, it's always, I think, of this kind of value equation. It is so helpful. So let's now talk about the unique value aspects that VR specifically can bring. And this is not going to be like a complete list of every aspect of VR. I really want to focus on the few things that I think are really like kind of like make VR stand out even more. So first of all, you can actually break the laws of physics. You can transcend space and time. Look, man, you can be anywhere in an instant. You can shrink to this tiny size of a human cell and be inside of the body, for example, but you can also at the same time, 1 second later, be in the size of the solar system and hold the sun in your hands. You can travel in time. You can be in the past and see how the ancient Greece gods were doing stuff. I don't know. I didn't come up with a cooler example, but you can also travel in the future, like alternative futures and everything. So you can do any of that stuff. There is no limit in VR. You can literally do anything your imagination desires. And again, in real world, it doesn't really work. Try walking on lava in real. Will be kind of painful. So that is a very unique thing of VR. You can actually like, you cannot just like watch it in a book or like on a video, like how the human cells work. You can be inside of the body, and that is really powerful. Another big thing of VR is you have a controlled environment, and you can also track a lot of analytics in there. Since you created this artificial world with your imagination and probably a game engine, that means you can fully control it. Want to have a night time in Egypt? No problem. Or if you want to have like a wide training room like in the Matrix to test out some cool fighting moves, also no problem. And even better, since every single movement and rotation and your eyes and your voice is being tracked, you can analyze all of that. We can record it, analyze it, play it back, calculate the improvements and everything. So that is a huge benefit in terms of analytics and quantify the performance here. And based on the performance, you can then adjust dynamically the level of your experience. And this is really powerful as well. Let me give you an example. So my very first VR project that I was still a student. I was working like as a working student or whatever you call it. We had a healthcare project, which is a research project to treat stroke patients. So just like very quickly, because I again have a dedicated TED talk where I have this example as well in more details. If you want to check this out, you can see it here. But generally what we did is we cloned the conventional mirror therapy, which is a therapy where when you have a stroke and you can't move your left arm anymore, you place a mirror in the middle and then you kind of like look at the mirror and make the gestures, and it tricks your brain to make you think it's the paralyzed arm to make it work again. Again, very simplified. We did the same thing in VR. So again, back in 2016, 17-ish, if these headsets didn't have any hand tracking, so we have to build everything externally. So we had a headset, I think the Vive or whatever, and then a hand tracking sensor, it's the Leap Motion I guess, and then like on a rig you put the hand in and then you mirror the hand in VR. So you put your right hand in, and in VR you actually see the left hand, and then with like machine learning algorithms and the sensoring data and everything, we could see how well was the patient doing. We also had some external eye trackers inside the headset, so we could even see how well was the patient in his like attention and everything. And based on that, you can actually increase the difficulty of the exercises. And again, very powerful example here. And you can apply this one to anything, especially training. So again, this is just one thing that you cannot replicate too much without VR. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember. involve me and I learn. Nothing more needs to be said here, right? VR can simulate real-life experiences like no other technology can do, which is one of the reasons why VR is so powerful in training and education actually. It is one of the biggest use cases in enterprise. You see VR training applications pretty much everywhere. So why is it so good? I mean, you can save a ton of money. First of all, you don't need to like fly in trainers at all the time. You can do it at scale, which is extremely powerful. You can massively increase the safety. For example, if you have like a firefighter training, you don't need to be in real fire. And if you operate like big and dangerous machines, like you don't get crushed by the machines or something like this if you do a mistake. So that is extremely beneficial already. But also you can have higher quality of learning. We already talked about it. If you do something, you learn better than if you read something, or if you watch a video on something, or if somebody talks about it. So that is, I mean, kind of obvious already. I think I don't need to further explain it. Like, how do you learn guitar? By actually playing guitar and not reading about guitar. Something we already talked about is you can actually measure the performance of the trainee, which then leads to having a better selection of the trainees. You can record the sessions and then replay them again, all of that stuff, which is incredibly helpful. And one other very strong reason, you can have people from all over the world in the same virtual space at the same time. So in real time. Try doing that in real life. I mean, you can have like a Zoom call or some shit like this, but having it in VR, actually working on the machine while being hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, is extremely powerful. So one thing that is really important, we already talked about the amazing, unique benefits of VR, but when do you not want to use VR? And this is crucial. You need to be able to differentiate. Is this use case useful with VR or not? So anything you can really do without VR, or maybe it's even better without VR, you don't want to do that use case. Very often we see people, especially developers and marketers, who just want to do cool stuff for the sake of being in VR. And yes, I was one of them. I recovered. And this is something that is a crucial mistake many people do. I mean, developers just love cracking hard problems. Like if they like the problem and if they like the technology, you can just throw it to them and they will just like fiddle it out until it's done. And that is amazing, but it's also dangerous, because if you put the wrong problem, the wrong use case to the developer, like the coder, he most likely will not question what you tell the person to do, because it already takes like 99% of mental resources to actually fix the thing or to actually build the solution. So you have to make sure, as a business person or whatever you are, that what you build is actually useful. So whenever you think of any idea, always question, do I really need VR for this? Simple example. I mean, let's say, for example, you want to use something like Tinder for VR, and instead of like photos of yourself, you have like an avatar, and then, I don't know, like you meet the person real and then they're like kind of ugly and everybody is disappointed. Where does this make sense? So probably there will be like a very small set of people who are like, oh yeah, looks are artificial, blah blah blah, it's all about personality. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't want to have this discussion right now, but you know what I mean. So I think this use case is kind of cringe and not sure if that really works. And if you are watching this and you're actually building this right now, don't get discouraged by me. I just think it's not a useful idea. Similar example, let's say you want to have a virtual newspaper in VR. I mean, I have seen these kind of use cases for like busy executives. That's a big mismatch on the target audience, because if you have a busy executive, that person will most likely just want to watch on his phone, like scroll it real quick, or have like a 2-minute mini podcast, or like just very fast digestion of that information, and not want to put on the headset and see everything and whatever, like immersive news kind of thing. Again, if you have a different target audience, let's say you have gamers, that target audience would make a lot more sense. So there are like a lot of small subtleties that are really important when considering your idea. Timing really matters too. So don't be too early with whatever idea you have. There's a lot of bullshit in the healthcare sector, for example, with like virtual surgery and everything. Again, there are incredible use cases in healthcare. I know a lot of healthcare professionals in the XR field. Shout out to Shift Medical. I mean, they are amazing. It's really, really cool. But there's a lot of like really cringe-worthy, weird things going on. I mean, especially when things get like haptic, when you have like very, very like high fidelity, like fine detail hand movements, like a surgery, for example. Again, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a doctor, but it's kind of like common sense. If you just do it like virtually, like cutting and everything, you need the haptic feedback. And yes, I know there are haptic feedback gloves, but I think the particular use case for these is like more operating like big machines and like having like big things like this, but no way something like very small and like tiny little details. So it's still in research, and it's in research for a reason. So generally, like everything that is needing like fine details of like haptics, for example, like learning to play guitar, no way that would make any sense in VR. Like playing guitar on most instruments, it's all about the feeling. Like you want to feel the pain of the string in your finger has to die. Like when you do any of these chords, you want to like push it like really hard, because like it trains your muscles and the mind-muscle connection of your left and right arm. You cannot replicate this in VR. So just don't even think about doing like guitar training simulation for VR. Again, maybe there's somebody building this already. I don't think it makes any sense. You can visualize the chords, but you can also just watch a video on this one. Just make sure that it is really useful with VR, so it takes the strength of VR and not something where you take the biggest limitation of VR and then try to bring it into that use case. Really, really, really important differentiation. I see a ton of use cases or a ton of products on like fairs, conferences and everything that are just like, why did you even build this? And probably every professional watching this right now, you've probably seen them too. Just to summarize this point, be very realistic with the current capabilities and limitations of the tech. Let's now talk about a couple of examples. Again, I can't go about every single example, but I want to choose like 3 of them, which are pretty cool. So first of all, we have, of course, VR in training, which is one of the biggest use cases, if not the biggest use case for this technology. Let's dive into Volkswagen, for example. They use VR for enhancing their training in their factories. I mean, they have over 700,000 employees worldwide and 120 production sites. So efficient and scalable training is super essential. VR allows Volkswagen to test and improve different pilot projects and set up collaborative VR sessions fast and easy. They've worked together with companies like Interactive, HTC, SenseGlove to create a realistic and useful training for their staff. But what's really amazing is that they use VR for more than just training. First quote, what a young woman wants from a car is very different from what an older man wants. The driving simulator helps us find the right compromise. Second quote, real car prototypes are very expensive, which is why we moved the assembly workshops to the world of VR. Third quote, our VR applications enable us to display workflows visually in such a way that anyone can understand them straight away. Any kind of way of showcasing your product, if it's like, again, like a showroom or a showcase or a trade show, conference, all of that stuff can be extremely helpful with VR. So try bringing like a yacht or a big car or like a private jet in a small room. Like that doesn't really work, right? Well, fortunately in VR you have unlimited, infinite room size. You can put a big factories in like a small room because you just put it in VR and then you can just teleport your rail around it. Pretty amazing use case as well. But not just showcasing your factory or your product, you can also showcase your products in a story kind of way, like a narrative, like showcasing your vision by building an immersive experiences. This is really, really cool use case too. And this was actually my very first commercial VR project that we did back in, I think 2018 or something like this, for a company called Trilux. And they had this like new showroom they built, and they wanted to have a immersive, innovative, creative way in showcasing their products, their vision, and just their like level of innovation. And third, like nothing particular, but there are like so many other unique ways of using VR. VR for prototyping is amazing. There's like a Bell helicopter example that is pretty good, but a lot of automotive companies are using it for prototyping because you don't need to actually build these things. You can just have them virtually. You can use it in a lot of like soft skills areas as well, like public speaking, but also empathy training, leadership training, or anything really in areas of communication, which is really cool as well. And something that I also really like is the use case of like architecture or interior design. I mean, this is also a company that I've worked like right before I like my last kind of job as a developer was in a company that did it for like interior design, especially for kitchen design. So this was a use case where you had like an empty room and you could build a virtual kitchen inside of that room and then make it fit exactly with the actual dimensions. Again, like IKEA is doing something similar like this as well. This is a really cool use case because you don't need to buy like a couch and a table and everything and then put them in just to see, it's too small, it's too big, I don't know. Oh, that's what she said. Oh god, never mind. So you can just save a lot of time, money, effort by using AR and VR for these use cases as well. I want to give you 2 action steps that are going to be extremely crucial to your success for creating these business use cases. First of all, you want to get really competent with XR and immersive technologies. Just be immersed with like everything there is. So watch YouTube videos, read books, go to conferences, talk to people, buy these headsets, try out these experiences, just do everything to kind of like be immersed, really, that's the perfect word for it, be immersed in these technologies, because then you kind of understand everything that works, you understand the limitations, you see what are good applications, what are bad applications. So I think that is going to be really, really important just to have like a basic overview. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to build something for VR if you don't know shit about VR. So spend time in VR, learn about it, study it, do stuff, have a basic understanding of like 3D stuff, game engines and everything. That is going to be really helpful too. Again, we have free courses, all of that stuff, but YouTube has everything already. So that is going to be number 1. Second, know the problems of your industry. Chances are you watching already work in some industry. If not, you have some experience with something, I guess. And it doesn't really matter whether it's like automobile, healthcare, marketing, sales, or interior design. Every single industry has problems. They have like pain points. They have things that annoy you or annoy your colleagues, and problems to solve. And since you have some more advantage in that field, since you have been in that field for many years, maybe you know exactly what are the biggest pain points, and then you have to find like the perfect combination. Okay, how can VR help with this particular thing? Again, interior design, super simple, planning and everything is 100 million times better with these technologies, and that is already amazing. So you want to solve a specific problem for a specific set of people, and the crucial part here is that it has to be a problem, it has to be some pain point. If they are not in pain, then they really won't care about your amazing solution. So always have this problem solving mindset on the back of your mind. So to summarize everything we talked about, when and why to use VR, more important when not to use VR, about the unique values VR can bring to you as well. We talked about some examples and concrete action steps you can take. If you're interested in, again, working with me or something like this, again, we do educational VR training usually, so which means if you want to become a VR creator, designer, developer, we have a group coaching that you can check out in the link below. If you have some business plan, project, I will also leave my email address below. Again, I apologize already if it takes a while to reply. I get like a lot of emails, so that can take some time. But again, I think these tips can help you a lot, and we will also talk about some AR use cases. AR is probably even more suited for enterprise use cases, for business use cases. So definitely gonna be like a very big thing because the market is just bigger. Everybody has an AR device, and the business applications of AR are even better than VR. That is something that I will be producing in the near future. So once the time is up, I will link the video here, check it out, and hopefully you got some value. If you like the video, please leave a like. That is something that helps me a lot. We talked about win-win transactional things already with value. So if that was valuable to you, again, I would highly appreciate that. Leave a comment on what you want me to talk next about more specific use cases in VR and everything. And thanks so much for listening. Again, check out the AR video here, and I see you in the next one.